What's up, folks? How you guys doing? I might make this like a regular like podcasty thing. At this point, this will be the second video I've made in this series of WavePunk talks about. I'm talking about power this time, which you might be like, what? You're an esports caster. What do you know about real life stuff? And I'd say, great question. I'm going to be honest. I don't really have a point to these videos. Like, I didn't have a point in the last one I was like trying to make of like, this is a thing that should happen or this is the change we're trying to make. This is just like, these are just ideas that have been running around my head that I want to express. And I'm kind of almost making these more for my own sake and more for the, like just to as almost like a video diary journal sort of thing. And maybe some people will appreciate listening to this. And if you have things you're like, I would like your opinion on or just your thoughts on, leave them as comments down below. But we've seen so much abuse of power in the last month in so many ways. And in some of the ways we've seen it, it's not that it's an abuse of power that's only happened in the last month. It's an abuse of power that's been going on for a very, very long time that is just now kind of like coming to the surface and that the public is acknowledging. Most obviously with the death of George Floyd and the protests that have followed that of people saying, this is not right. This is wrong. And just like, how mind-blowing is it, Americans who are watching this, how mind-blowing is it that people in other countries are protesting what is happening to us in America? Like, imagine that flipped around. Imagine Americans protesting about anything that isn't directly affecting them. Like, we are selfish people over here. We are selfish and we are so comfortable. Like, I would even say, like, oppressed people in America who have it bad, and we should never be doing that to them. And they should absolutely have the same level of equal opportunity that those of us of privilege have. That's the whole concept of America. You can come to America and everyone's on the same playing field, and anyone that has passion and ingenuity and zeal and drive can make it, and they're not going to be held back because of the color of their skin or from where they come from or what they believe. That's the whole concept of America. That's the beauty of America, right? And the idea that we're taking people and marginalizing them for any reason, and we are abusing the power we have as a nation to force them into those places and tell them that they don't have opportunities. That's horrible. But like, there are countries where people just get bombed for no reason. You believe something and they kill everybody in your family, right? That's a real thing in America. And you don't. But other countries are protesting the oppression that happens in our country. And we're not protesting the genocide that happens in other countries, right? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. And I realize I'm probably blowing over protests that do happen in America. It's just wild to me. It's wild to me the degree to which it's happened the other way around. And I think it's beautiful. And I think it is a testament to how as complicated of an issue as racism in America is, and as complicated as police injustice is, it is still at its surface pretty fundamental that people who are in charge and whose job is to create order and law should never abuse their power ever. And the concept, like power, it's so interesting to me that like the people that are like, no, like all the cops are good, right? Like, or not all the cops are good, but like most cops are good. There's just a few bad apples, and we shouldn't get rid of the whole police system because there are bad cops, right? But it's you know the phrase "power corrupts," and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think it's attributed to Caesar. It's funny that my brain wants to say that came from Spider-Man, but that's with great power comes great responsibility. And the funny thing is, I think almost everybody would acknowledge that is a thing. That is a thing that is happening, right? That is a thing that happened. Everyone would say, yes, power does corrupt. But then you ask them, okay, so the police have power. We have literally armed them with physical strength, and then we have created rules and societal power that allows them to use that strength however they choose. And and many people look and go like, no, they're not abusing their power. They wouldn't do that because they're cops and they're good people. And it's like, but you just admitted that power does corrupt, and we have obviously given these people power. Not that it always corrupts. They don't have absolute power, so they're not absolutely corrupted. But like the idea that you wouldn't even be willing to acknowledge or try to mull over and reason through that our cops corrupt right now. Is the police department affected, right? It's it's a problem. I think people should allow themselves, when you realize, okay, this is the thing that happens, when we are giving people power, we should always be putting into check, like, how do we keep this power in check right now? And then the thing is, like, power is created by, or the problem with power, why power corrupts, is because it creates a sensation of safety. It carries with it a lack of consequences. And when we give people power, power is not good or evil. It's how you use it, right? We give people power so that they can do things that otherwise are impossible, right? When we tell someone, you're the general, you're in charge of this army, and this army is trying to defend us from a wicked group of people, if we didn't elect that general, we didn't elect that leader for our army would be very split, and the organized army would come through and pillage all of our lands and all of our people, and we would lose the things we loved, right? And so by giving that person power over a group of people, a group of soldiers, we are able to see results that otherwise wouldn't happen, right? That's why people are given power. We give police officers power so that they can quell the people who are picking up the physical power of weaponry, or the physical power of strength, and trying to use it for their own personal gain at the expense of the societal contract that's been signed by all Americans. We give the police more power than those people so that they can keep them in check, so that we can all keep on respecting this contract, and the people that want to break the contract are then put away and are punished for that, right? And that's how we maintain a good, healthy country. The problem is that creates a sensation of safety, right? That these people, like, I have power, and to some degree there has to be a little bit of an ability to make mistakes, or else, like, where people won't use their power, I think that's the general sentiment of Americans too, is like you give people power, there needs to be a little bit of a lack of consequence if you mess up. But I just don't think I agree with that. I don't think I agree that, like, with power should come, this is where the Spider-Man thing comes in. With power comes responsibility. With the responsibility to use that power correctly. And right now we are seeing, especially in the police department, or in the police world, a lack of consequences, which means that there is not that responsibility to use their power well. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating to watch people abuse power. And the people that I think there's a lot of people that are like, all cops aren't bad. We're seeing, like, even if it's like 1,000 cops in America that are abusing their power, that doesn't make all cops bad. There's hundreds of thousands of cops in America. How could you possibly say that all cops are bad because 1% is bad? The thing is the only people that right now in the police department who can hold police accountable are other police officers. And so when they choose to stand by and say, I'm okay with this person abusing power, when your explicit job is to stop people from committing crimes, like I think it's an important jump to make, to realize that a police officer abusing his power he's committing a crime. We call it, it's excessive force. Like he went a little bit too hard doing his job. When I see a police officer drive a cop car through a group of people, that's not abusive. That's not excessive power. That's not excessive use of force. That's not that is just straight up attempted vehicular manslaughter. Like, there is no circumstance. Like, name a single moment when it's like, okay, yes, the right solution there was for a cop to try and mow down this group of people with blunt force, and maybe the car was too much, so it was excessive use of force. That's not a thing. There's never a situation where the police handbook says drive a vehicle through a group of people. It's not excessive use of force. It's a crime. He becomes a criminal in that moment, and it's infuriating because his entire job is to not be a criminal. Step zero of being a police officer is don't do the thing that your job is to help stop, right? And there will be people that are like, oh, well, police show up after the crimes. Their job isn't to stop crimes. But no, the presence of police, people don't commit crimes because of the possibility of being caught, right? I know, just personally, as a person who likes to go fast, who has a fast car and likes to go fast, because I got caught speeding once, I don't speed for fear that I'm going to go around a corner and there's going to be a police officer there, right? Regardless of whether he's there or not, I seem significantly a safer driver because I am afraid of police presence. So yes, I will stand by the statement that a police officer's job fundamentally is to stop crime. And so if he commits a crime, that's a problem. And what makes it doubly bad, and where we get into the territory of all police are bad, right? If a police officer commits a crime, power corrupts. We said that earlier. So there is that, by that statement, we are acknowledging that we are going to give police officers power, and that means that some of them are going to use it poorly. That's okay because we all know that's going to happen. But it's only okay if the rest of the police officers look at the police officer who is now a criminal and say, oh, my job is to stop criminals, this police officer become a criminal, I'm now going to enforce that power upon you and make you stop doing the bad things, right? And so if police officers do that, then it's like, okay, the police are a self-sustaining, self-curating, self-accountable organization, and we can trust them even in moments when a cop commits a heinous crime. But that's not happening. Far and wide, that's not happening. There was a video from the New York Police Union boss saying that, like, my police officers aren't Derek Chauvin. They're not that he's a bad cop in Minneapolis, but we're here in New York. We're not him. My badge still has a shine on it because I still do good things. I do good police work here, right? And but he didn't acknowledge the videos that had come out from like the last 2 weeks of police officers in New York assaulting people in the streets and abusing their power. And it's like, the Derek Chauvin isn't the reason your badge is grungy, Mr. New York Union police boss. It's these cops over here who are part of your union who are abusing their power, and you're not pointing to those people and saying they're in the wrong and they did something horrible. And I can't believe that those people were called New York police. No, you stood by them. It's like, no, it was fine. And I think that the New York chief of police has come out about a lot of those videos being like, that wasn't an excessive use of force. And it's like, what do you mean it wasn't an excessive use of force? There's literally, and again, I'm not a police officer. I don't work in police enforcement. So I cannot comprehend what would possibly and be considered an excuse for driving a vehicle into a crowd of people. Just because nobody got hurt does not mean it's okay, right? If I pull out a gun and shoot at somebody, that'll be called it's attempted murder, right? It's aggravated assault. Like it's not. I'm not. Just because I didn't hurt anybody does not mean it's okay. So it blows my mind that they could stand by and say like, oh yes, we are good cops because we're not the ones doing those things. When it's like, no, but your cops are doing those things, and your job is to stop people who do those things, and you're not stopping those people from doing those things, so who are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you using your power? As a matter of fact, it's not even like you're just sitting by silently. You're defending those people. You know, we see the police officers shove a protester over and then not help him, and then those police officers get suspended, and then like 57 police officers protest by like going on strike because of an abuse of power, right? It is crazy, and the thing I think it's important to realize is that there is a complete difference of mentality. Police officers, I think, genuinely believe it's us versus the world. We have to protect our own, or else we are going to be just chopped liver out here. And I don't know. I will admit I have not talked to an actual police officer about any of this. I would really like to, but I'm also scared to, which is sad. Because it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy that police could do something bad and the other police officers wouldn't be like, that's not us. We don't do that. I can't believe that person did that. Or that person wouldn't come out and be like, I am so sorry, right? Like the video of the 70-year-old protester coming and bringing the helmet to the police, and the police kind of pushing him back, and then him falling over and cracking his head on the pavement and blood coming out of his head, and all the cops walking past him. And I can't imagine. I do not understand a world where a police officer looks at that and goes like, I'm not going to help that person, right? You're a civil servant. Your whole job is to help that person, right? Your whole job is to help people that are in need, and you just caused need, and now you're like, nope, not my problem. Like, mind-blowing. I do not understand, right? And I think to some degree maybe it's like cops are following orders, and then that happens and they're like, oh, I didn't even want to do this. I didn't even want to be here, but my sergeant told me to do this, and now I feel so guilty and I don't know what to do, and I feel like if I help him, I'm going against sergeant's orders, so maybe it all comes from the sergeant, right? I don't understand. Like, I'm not a police officer. Again, I don't know why these things happen. But, man, like, police are doing bad things. There's like over 500 videos out there from the last month of police abusing power. And even if like half of them are just like videos taken out of context, that's still so many. Abuse of power is a real thing. And the question really comes down to, so what do we do? What do we do in that moment, right? And we see this with systemic power, right, as well, that like we as white people have oppressed black people through the power we have. We see it now in the esports industry with the sexual harassment stuff that's going on, with people coming forward and being like, hey, look at these people who have status abusing that power to do horrible things because they feel a lack of consequences. Again, power gives a sensation of safety. It carries with it a lack of consequences. It enables people to give into horrid desires and to do horrible things. And I think that the only way to remove, to fight corruption of power, or to fight the power that corrupts, is to remove that sensation of safety as much as possible. To some degree, it is innate in the concept of power, which is why power corrupts. But the only way to really limit that, the corruption, the erosion of good power, is for people to feel a little bit less safe with it. It should carry with it a consequence. It's so interesting to me, the concept that is like, no, police officers kind of get a little bit of leeway because of the strenuousness of their job, right? When in truth, you're supposed to be a pillar of order and a pillar of goodness and a pillar of help and servitude in a community. You should be held to the highest standard. The same way that a priest or a pastor in a church system is held to a higher standard. And there will be people that point out that the Catholic Church has woefully failed at this, but biblically, at least in the Christian system, the leaders in the religious community are supposed to be above reproach. So the same thing should be true for law enforcement. That if anything, a cop should never be like, the idea that like, oh well, the cop shouldn't pull a trigger. And like, if he has to hesitate about pulling a trigger because he's worried about paperwork or he's worried about being sued for murder, it's like, that sounds okay. That sounds like a genuine, like he's only going to pull the trigger if he's actually genuinely fearing for his life, or if he genuinely thinks that person is about to harm somebody. And does that mean we lose more police officers? I think that is a fear, right? And that would suck. And the idea that people who show up to try and help because they're worried about a backlash would make a mistake that costs them their life is horrible, but it's a thing that they control, right? If it's like, we don't want that to happen, but as a police officer, you can do more to prepare yourself for that moment to make sure you don't make that mistake that puts your own life in jeopardy. And the mistake, that preparation shouldn't be fire first, ask questions later. Don't worry, we've got laws that protect you, so you can just do that, because that's so abusable. It's so abusable. So and having the police should be, the idea that like it's so difficult to press charges against a police officer is genuinely a problem in my mind. They should be the people it's easiest to press charges on. Why? Because they work for the people who pursue criminals. Their whole thing, right? Like, if a police officer commits a crime, he should be the easiest person to convict or to clear, right? It should be so easy to be like, nope, here's our footage, here's our GPS data on exactly where he was at the time when that person was blaming him for this thing, that he clearly wasn't there, he has an alibi, he wasn't in the vicinity, here's his body cam footage of what he was doing at the time, overwhelming evidence that this person did not do the thing he's being accused of, he's acquitted. Or it's so obvious that he actually did exactly what they said he did. Because we are police and we hold ourselves accountable. It should be that clean and pure, and I would have so much respect for the police department if they did those things, but we're just nationally seeing them not do that, and to some degree globally not seeing them do that in other countries as well. Apparently India is having a similar protest situation right now. So obviously that's why we feel like we need a systemic, from the ground up, reworking of the police system. But the removal of the sensation of safety and accountability, it's a very difficult thing to do, and that's why it has not been fully or perfectly done in any circumstance up until this point. And again, I'm kind of just talking. I'm just talking about my thoughts about this. And if you stuck around this long, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, or I'm glad you've listened. I hope that this has helped inform you to some degree. And I think that within esports, there's a bit of, this is going to sound weird, but there's a sensation of power. Again, power gives a sensation of safety, and it gives a sensation of a lack of consequences, right? There's a bit of that comes with drinking. And as you read the sexual harassment accusations that have been just pouring out from all over our industry, so many of them, overwhelming majority of them, involve alcohol as an excuse. And what's crazy is I don't drink. I've never really consumed alcohol. I've never been drunk. And even I will read some of those stories and be like, oh, they were drunk, right? Even I, as someone who has not experienced what that's like, knows that people become uninhibited and make mistakes or do things that they wouldn't usually do in moments when when they're drunk, right? They allow a little bit of their light to shine. So someone who's like sexually attracted to somebody, they get drunk and then they'll be willing to try and express that and kind of go further and just go for it, quote unquote, right? When they're drunk. And it sucks. It's bad that my brain allows me to see that as an excuse. That is something that I can do right now to help deal with this problem, is not give that excuse. The sensation of safety that comes with, like, I'm just drunk, I can use it as an excuse and people will understand. Even people who don't drink will understand. I need to remove that sensation of safety. That should not be a place of safety for horrible acts like sexual assault. And to some degree, it's on us to hold each other accountable and to protect each other. I've spent so much of this past week really going over my head and wondering, has there ever been a moment when I witnessed somebody doing something, abusing their power, and have taken advantage of somebody, and that I didn't intervene? And the answer is no. I can't think of a moment when I saw somebody do that. I can remember a moment, a very specific, singular moment in my career when I did that, when I abused power. This is something I've talked about on stream once before, but this was right after Rocket League had become a thing, or Rocket League esports had become a thing. We had done LAN number 1. I was sitting in a TeamSpeak at Discord with a bunch of Rocket League people, and there was me and a bunch of other dudes, and then one female was in the call, and I remember making a sexual joke at her expense. And we laughed about it, and I did it because I wanted the approval of the people around me that I already had the approval of. These dudes were in the call. Well, I wanted them to laugh at my joke, and I knew it would get a laugh out of them, and it's heinous. It's horrible that I was okay with that. That I thought that was something that was okay. Like, and as someone who I grew up in the Bible Belt of the South. I was homeschooled. I was a devout Christian. I had, at the time, never even seen a girl naked in person. I hadn't kissed anybody. I had kissed someone at that point. But, like, I'd kissed one person. I'd kissed one person at that time. And, like, I was someone who very much valued, like, the safety and respect of women. And even in that, even someone with as kind of wholesome and as chivalrous of a mind as me, in that moment saw the power I had, saw a way to use it at somebody's expense, and gave into it. And it was like, man, for so long with all the Me Too stuff, I remember back when it first really popped up, I would see that and be like, well, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about being part of the problem here, because I know I haven't, because I've never even, like, touched somebody, you know? I've never been in a context where I could do that. I've never put myself into a moment where I possibly have made someone feel uncomfortable like that. But then I finally actually took the time to actually stop and, like, okay, let's stop using the fact that where I came from, I was using where I came from and using my background as an excuse to say there's no way I ever did that, right? There's no way I ever did that. And I needed to stop doing that. Like, let's just stop that for just a second and actually think through all my actions and think, have I ever done something that would have made somebody feel uncomfortable in a sexual context or because of their gender or something like that? And that was the first moment, and that moment popped right to mind, and I was like, wow, I did do that one time. And I reached, and for closure and context, this was years ago, and I reached out to this person probably 2 years ago and apologized and expressed, I can't believe that I did this to you, and I'm so sorry that you experienced that at my hands. And you know what's really, really sad? They forgave me, and they said they didn't remember. They were like, I have no recollection of you making that joke at my expense. And the thing was, they're like, it's probably because it was just one of many that happened that week, so it just kind of blended in. And I'm still friends with that person, and things are fine there, and I'm ashamed that that's something I ever did. But it's also like, it's what a testament to the fact that they can't even, that it's not even like it's not even a blip on their radar, because they have to deal with it so often, right? it goes so far for this stuff. It goes so deep with this stuff, and it's so important for us to hold each other accountable and to not allow ourselves to abuse that power that we've been given. That when we have power, and even if that power is just being a dude in a group of dudes where you have the majority, the power of the majority over of a female who wants to fit in, or over some other dude that wants to fit in, right? Like if you're making gay jokes in a group because you're all dudes and you're like, yeah, we're all straight here, right? And there's probably someone in that group who's not, or who's bi at least, and who feels marginalized and feels the requirement to laugh at the joke, or else they will be forced out of that group. And that is such exclusive behavior and so negative. We can't allow ourselves to do that. We can't encourage that. And this is, it's so easy for us to it's so easy for me to look at it and realize, okay, I did that self-awareness check a few years ago, realized there was a moment when I had hurt somebody in that way. I apologized for it. They forgave me. I feel like I've learned from that process. I'm good now. I know I'm not going to do it again. I'm good. That is the first step. That's kind of like the process of becoming not racist, right? But the whole movement right now that's it's not just good enough to be not racist, you have to be anti-racist. I have to actively be looking out for people in my community who are doing things like that and encouraging them not to, which is hard because you're taking the weight, right? In the situation of I'm making a joke at somebody's expense and they now have to choose to let it go and choose to agree with it and enjoy it at their own expense or else be forced out of the group, right? In a moment when I look at someone making a joke and I say, hey, that's not okay, I'm taking on that weight for them. I'm now allowing myself to have the risk of being forced out of the group because I'm standing up for this. And while that sucks to do, it's also very important, super important to do, or else it will always keep happening. And this is the only way it can ever start. And we have to make peace with it and acknowledge that, or try to get ourselves to the point where we are cool with losing friendships and losing connections with people that are okay with entertaining those ideas. We should never allow ourselves as people with power to look at other people with power and watch them abuse it and be okay with that. Because if we do, this is the exact same problem with the police. There are people that have power who are watching other people with power abuse it. They have the ability to stop them. They have the ability to intervene. They have the ability to do something about it, and they're choosing not to because it's just too weird, it's too awkward, and too risky. We have to be okay with doing it ourselves. If we really want to hold the police accountable like that, we have to shut it down in our own environments. And when it comes to gaming, right now at least, the obvious place where we can do that is allowing there to not be even a hint of this sexual base activities. Whether that's somebody being predatorial at a party, or allowing themselves to drink to the point of being uninhibited to the point of making someone uncomfortable, or whether it's simply making crass humor at someone's expense in a Discord, right? So I've talked for long enough. This is about half an hour long at this point. I appreciate any of you guys listening. If you have thoughts or questions, or if you have anything you want me to talk about in the future, please leave them as comments below. And leave a like if you're enjoying this, because it helps me know that people are listening to this. But I'm going to kind of keep making these just as personal explanation. So it's as personal exploration and stuff like that. So yeah, appreciate you guys listening. Stay safe out there. Go make the world a better place. See you guys next time.